The way human perception is being studied and then being consumed by people in our field these days is undergoing a great deal of change. So traditionally, textbooks in sensation and perception, sometimes taught in two different courses, would cover the sensory receptors in one course, and then they'd cover the brain mechanisms that interpret that information in the other course. But today, perception, the study of it, includes complex objects, dynamic events, human faces in motion, the whole body in action, and the perception of narrative in music, in movies, in language, and it involves the integration of all the senses. So it's all connected, essentially, and we want a series of articles that cover perception that reflect that new understanding, with a special emphasis on application to everyday activities like driving, running a trail, talking on Zoom, being immersed in virtual reality. So our goal is to assemble a modular series of articles that can be used for textbook material, for reference, and so on, where each element will include cutting-edge research and yet make links to what we call the classics. Elements have several features that make them unique from regular research articles or reviews that authors might be considering. First of all, they offer this connective tissue between research in the lab and the way perception works in everyday life. They also have a particular point of view, so we really welcome having the unique perspective of a particular research team reflected in an element, instead of having a theoretically agnostic or sort of broad-based coverage. And in doing that, we want authors to integrate literature that's often treated separately. So, for instance, emotion should not be considered separately from attention, and vice versa, because as we all know, we like what we use and we use what we like. And so these things can't be studied in isolation. And finally, they're intended to be inspirational. We want to encourage students to dive more deeply into an area, and so these elements provide an entry point for that. The best way to answer that is probably to look at the way we've invited authors to begin with. So we began with a element on hypothesis testing, how to conduct rigorous research in this new era of open science and data transparency. We moved on to an article on chemosenses with the subtitle, "Are you going to eat that?" Because we wanted to reflect the entanglement between taste, smell, and our motivation and reward issues. We have an article on what it's like to experience color with 4 cones instead of 3 cones, because there's a sizable number of people among us who actually have 4-cone color vision. Then there's a already published an element on driving, the application of attention into real-world activities like driving a car. The features that make this series unique for authors is that they're being invited to write with a unique perspective or with a particular point of view, so that the reader can kind of get into the head of the research team and figure out why they made the decisions they made. Also, we're asking authors to be forward-looking, not merely archival, not merely summarizing what's gone on in the past, but we invite them to say where the field is going and why they think that's the case. The other uniquenesses have to do with the series being entirely digital. So each article is updatable. Cambridge can print one-off copies for a fairly low price. And authors can add links like video and data to enhance the presentation for the digital readers. And the final point is that these articles are open-ended. So we have relaxed word limits from the conventional journal article, so that authors can describe their work in what we call its natural length instead of being severely truncated for page space. My email is, as series editor, is available on the website where this video will be held. And so we're inviting people to contact me, adding a short outline, a 2 to 4 page proposal that we will get the editorial team to review. And as you can see, we've got contracts for about 20 now, and we have room for about 10 more. So we'll welcome any new research team that wants to consider this proposal and can fit into this scheme that I've described.